Hello, Sonita. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for taking my interview.
Oh,
Really
thank
glad
you
to
for
be
coming
here.
on. So to start off, could you tell me a little bit about yourself and your role in the movie or the film? Sorry.
Yeah, my name is Sonita Gale. I'm the writer, director, and producer of Hostile. Hostile is a feature-length documentary about the hostile environment in the UK. And yeah, I pretty much did all three roles on the film. I'm 40, nearly 47 years old. I'm a mum of two. I came to filmmaking quite late, I guess, in terms of directing. I've produced a couple of things, but this very much was my debut as director and writer.
Okay, very nice. And this is produced under your company, Gale Force, is that right?
That's right.
This is your first production for them, is it?
This is my second production for Gale Force. I produced a documentary called Rags to Riches, Power to Peace, which is a film about Andrew Carnegie, and Brian Cox, the actor, narrated that, and that was shown on BBC in BBC Scotland, basically, and it premiered at Edinburgh. I've also produced a web series with Jonathan Jude, which was during lockdown, and a very, very, very short film with Ursula Macfarlane about the NHS. And I've also got a couple of other projects that are kind of in pre-production now, which are being produced between myself and production companies in America. So from a kind of production point of view, Gale Force Films has a few projects on its slate and has produced a couple of films.
Perfect. And so what inspired you to make this film?
I mean, I guess, you know, when the pandemic struck, like us all, everyone became deeply reflective, I guess, and also everybody was locked in to their homes, into their local communities, and with their families, loved ones, or even alone. And I think that time in March 2020 was a deeply reflective time for me. And I started to really think about my childhood and growing up with Sikh parents who weren't English speaking, couldn't really read and write English very well. And specifically my mother, who was a refugee in India during partition, and the struggle she had as a migrant coming to this country. And my father died when I was 5, leaving her to be a single parent. So when the pandemic struck, I thought deeply about my childhood and about, you know, everything they did for me and my family unit, and beyond my family unit, my community unit, which was pretty much a bit like lockdown. You know, as children, we grew up on a lane not far from the school, not far from the convenience store that my parents had, a couple of buses away from the factory that my mom worked in. I used to walk to school. The Gurdwara was in the local town, and we kind of all relied on each other. And I guess my childhood was a little bit like lockdown because I didn't really venture out beyond my community. And my cousins were like my friends. We all hung out together and stayed within our houses. And I guess it made me think about that and how our community kept us together. And so when the pandemic happened, I had this deep sense of urgency to go out to the street to film the very communities, like my parents, like my community in Wolverhampton, that were keeping society moving during the global pandemic. So really, it was that gave me the impetus to go out and make my debut.
Okay. And so what is the purpose of making this film? Is there something that you wanted to achieve by making it?
I guess the purpose has changed, right? I think initially when I was making the film, the purpose was to make a film about migrant communities during this global pandemic. Unfortunately, as I was making the film, I learned about the hostile environment in the UK. And that led me on a bit of an investigative journey, an unfolding journey of that narrative, which was really led by my participants. So it was them that gave me the access to the story. And as I was unfolding the story and learning about the story, I became more horrified about the infrastructure and the legislation that presented itself within our country. So my purpose changed from somewhat a film that was going to be hopeful to a film that was going to be revealing about legislation that's causing so much pain within our country. And as I filmed and this narrative unfolded, and I was making the film and editing the film and then doing the post-production, I also wanted to have some kind of hope within the film, and the ending of the film does end with hope, but the film also reveals the significant cracks in our society. And then I guess when I finished the film, it was only within a matter of weeks that I was in Raindance Film Festival. And then that just snowballed from there. You know, I had the British Independent Film Awards where I was longlisted, the BAFTA where I was longlisted, a number of festivals that I was in. And now I'm in competition in Manchester Film Festival. And I guess that journey really just unfolded itself. And now we're on a cinema tour. I guess the purpose of the film is getting the story out there of normal individuals that are living in our society, that are subject to this hostile environment, and really seeing how, as a community and a country and a Great Britain, that we can come together during this time and kind of help these people that are in need and help these people that are really suffering. So my purpose now is the tour. My purpose is raising awareness. My purpose is to get to Parliament. And my purpose is to get as far as I can, which ultimately is the United Nations. So I have quite a big purpose now. That started off quite small to begin with, but it's happening. Things are happening. And I'm just so grateful for that.
Okay, perfect. So you mentioned about the hostile environment, and the start of the film, there's what I assume is an MP talking about this hostile environment policy. Could you explain what that is for me, please?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that the hostile environment came about really in force in 2012, 2013 under the Conservative government. However, what we learn in the film is that this hostile environment just didn't happen in that year, in that decade. And we go back to successive governments, you know, from the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s that created this hostile environment. And the hostile environment really is a set of policies put in place by successive governments that make life so unbearable for individuals. They either don't come, or they voluntarily leave, or they get deported. And those set of policies include something called no recourse to public funds, which is a condition on your visa that basically doesn't allow you to access the welfare state. So if you're here on a particular visa that has no recourse to public funds, which are pretty much every tier 1 to tier 4 and indefinite and limited leave to remain, then you can't, for example, access disability allowance. You can't access universal credit. You can't access any sort of support with, you know, GP services, NHS, things like that. So you really are stuck. So when in usual circumstances, when you know that you're here and you're working, that's fine because you understand those are the parameters that are set. But during a global pandemic where there's work shortages, that's when things become highly sort of complicated. And that's where people are pretty much forced into destitution because they can't work, they can't access anything, and there's no means of earning anything to support themselves. So really that hostile environment you referred to was the MP Stephen Timms, who's working tirelessly to reveal the atrocities of no recourse to public funds and really to bring home that this NRPF needs to be reviewed, at least put on holiday during a global pandemic, and also in some cases just not to have it at all with people that are destitute, you know, to give them some support for goodness sake. So yeah, so the film reveals that as we progress through the story.
Okay, I did a little bit of research, and you're challenging this NRPF through a impact campaign, is that right?
Yeah.
Could you tell me a little bit about this campaign and how people can get involved with it?
Yeah, so I guess if you go onto our website, www.hostiledocumentary.com, you'll see that we have a certain number of asks, and those asks are, you know, to review the NRPF condition, to make applications more accessible to people where English isn't their first language, to, for example, with students that are here studying, if there is a global pandemic, to review the NRPF condition on their visas, because you know, it doesn't, you know, they're only allowed to work 20 hours a week. So there is a certain number of asks that we have for a person that is destitute, to not have them have NRPF, to completely abolish that for those individuals. So ultimately, our campaign is around NRPF. We're working with MPs like Stephen Timms, we're working with organizations like JCWI, who are really trying to reveal the sort of the cracks within NRPF, and to hope that in the future it can be more lenient, more kinder to those that are suffering and struggling.
Okay. So when was the film released, and what is happening with the film?
Yeah, so the film was released on January 21st. It was picked up by Picture House. They're an independent chain throughout the country. I've been on a tour since that date. We've probably done, at my guess, around 25 screenings and Q&As to date. We are going on a UK tour with Picture House. I've also screened at other independent cinemas like Curzon, Mac Birmingham, Rio, and we're continuing our tour until the end of March, where we're going into different parts of the country and speaking about this film. I'm always joined by a host, and in some cases our participants, and in other cases somebody that's from that field of work or interest, an academic, a lawyer, an activist, a lecturer, a student, somebody that's suffering from the hostile environment. So we've had these really amazing debates and discussions around this film and around what this film might achieve by raising awareness.
So there's a screening in the Harbour Lights, is that correct?
Absolutely.
And that's one of the motion pictures, Picture House's venues, is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm so excited to be coming there.
Yeah, no, I've been in there. It's very nice cinema, actually. And what day is the screening?
So we are going to Southampton on Wednesday, the 23rd of February, and I shall be there. The film shall be screening there at 6 o'clock at Harbour Lights, Southampton. We have some tickets available. We're really wanting the local community to attend. So yeah, super excited about coming to Southampton.
So where can people get tickets?
So you can actually go onto the Picture House website and go to Harbour Lights and buy tickets there. You can also go to www.hostiledocumentary.com and you can find tickets on our website that will take you directly to Picture House. And yeah, I guess it's going to be an interesting event. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be with a host talking about the film, and just super excited to be coming to Southampton.
Amazing. We'll also have our on our Facebook page, we'll put up a link with links to the tickets and everything, so you can find that there as well. So thank you so much, Sonita, for joining us for this interview today. It's been very insightful, and we're looking forward to watching the film.
Yeah, thank you. Just one thing I want to add to the interview. We have 2 tickets to give away, and please do get in contact with us at info@galeforcefilms.co.uk. That's GALEFORCE films.co.uk, and just email us, and 2 tickets will be waiting for you at the box office, and I will be there to greet you. So please come along.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.